The research station floated in silence above the gray moon. Inside, Thalvor stared at the data on his screen and felt something he rarely experienced. Fear. He had studied hundreds of species in his long career. Peaceful traders, aggressive warriors, logical thinkers, emotional dreamers. But humans were different. Humans were wrong in a way that made his blood run cold. Thalvor's assistant entered the room carrying more files. The creature's 4 eyes blinked in concern. "The council is ready for your presentation," it said softly. Thalvor nodded and gathered his materials. 3 years ago, humans had joined the galactic community. At first, they seemed normal enough. A bit aggressive, perhaps. A bit emotional, but nothing unusual. Many young species were like that. Then the research team began studying human history. That's when the problem started. The council chamber was massive, built to hold representatives from 40 different species. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some had bodies, others were pure energy. But all of them shared one thing. They valued survival. Every intelligent species in the galaxy had evolved to survive, to preserve themselves, to continue existing. Every species except humans. Thalvor walked to the center of the chamber. Holographic displays surrounded him, ready to show his findings. He saw Jiwan sitting in the human section. She was Earth's diplomatic liaison, a calm woman with dark eyes that revealed nothing. She nodded to him politely. "Honored Council," Thalvor began, his voice amplified through the chamber. "I bring disturbing news about the human species." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The council members leaned forward, interested. Thalvor activated the first display. Images of human warfare appeared in the air. Burning cities, destroyed armies, planets covered in mushroom clouds. "Humans have a concept they call revenge," Thalvor said. "All species understand revenge to some degree. An eye for an eye, proportional response. But human revenge is different. Human revenge is absolute." He showed them a graph. "In our simulations, we placed humans in scenarios where they faced certain defeat. We gave them 3 options: surrender and survive, retreat and regroup, or fight to mutual destruction. The graph showed the results. 40% of humans chose mutual destruction, 40%. The council chamber erupted in shocked sounds. Clicks, whistles, hums of disbelief. "That cannot be correct," said one council member, a being of crystalline light. "No rational species would choose death over survival." Thalvor shook his head slowly. "I verified the data 7 times. The results are consistent. When humans believe they will lose, a significant portion would rather die than let their enemy win. They call it taking them down with us." He showed them more examples. Human history was full of such incidents. Cities that burned themselves rather than surrender. Soldiers who fought to the last person instead of retreating. Generals who destroyed their own supplies so enemies couldn't use them. "Look at this," Thalvor said, showing a document from human history. In their 20th century, humans developed weapons that could destroy their entire planet. They called them nuclear weapons. And do you know what doctrine they created? He paused for effect. Mutually assured destruction. They built enough weapons to kill everyone on Earth multiple times. Then they promised that if attacked, they would launch everything. Both sides would die. Complete extinction. And they believed this was a reasonable strategy. The council chamber fell silent. The kind of heavy silence that comes from profound horror. They pointed world-ending weapons at themselves. Thalvor continued. They lived for decades with the constant threat of total extinction, and they considered this normal, acceptable, even necessary. Jiwan remained calm in her seat. She had known this presentation was coming. She had read the research. She knew how it would sound to species that valued survival above all else. A council member from an insect-like species spoke up. "Perhaps this is just historical. Young species are often irrational. Have modern humans evolved past this thinking?" Thalvor activated another display. "Last month we interviewed 3,000 humans from various cultures. We asked them a simple question. If an enemy attacked Earth and certain defeat was inevitable, would they prefer to surrender and live under occupation, or fight to mutual destruction? The results appeared on the screen. 67% chose mutual destruction. They would kill their entire species rather than submit, Thalvor said quietly. This is not ancient history. This is how humans think today, right now. He showed them brain scans. When humans contemplate revenge, their pleasure centers activate. Revenge literally makes them feel good, even when that revenge means their own death. Their brains reward self-destructive behavior if it harms an enemy. More images appeared. Human literature, filled with stories of revenge. Human movies celebrating characters who sacrificed everything to hurt their enemies. Human music, human art, human culture, all saturated with the glory of mutual destruction. In every human language they have sayings about this, Thalvor said. If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. We'll meet in hell. Victory or death. They tattoo these phrases on their bodies. They teach them to their children. A council member who resembled a floating jellyfish spoke in a trembling voice. What evolutionary pressure could possibly create such thinking? How could a species survive if they constantly choose death? Thalvor nodded. An excellent question. We believe it relates to Earth's history. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. They chased prey for days until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. They never gave up, never stopped. They were weaker than many predators, so they developed a different strategy. They became the species that would never ever quit. He showed images of Earth's ancient predators. Humans lived alongside creatures that could kill them easily. Massive cats with knife-like teeth, giant bears, venomous snakes. Humans survived by making themselves too costly to attack. A predator might kill a human, but that human would fight back with everything they had. They would hurt the predator badly, even in death. Eventually, predators learned to avoid humans, not because humans were strong, but because humans were crazy. The council processed this information. It made a terrible kind of sense. This trait saved them on their homeworld, Thalvor continued. But now they are in space. Now they have access to weapons and technology far beyond their old world. And they still think the same way. He brought up combat simulations. We tested human military responses to various scenarios: invasion, blockade, surprise attack. In every case where humans faced overwhelming odds, their battle computers included options for mutual destruction, not as a last resort, as a primary strategy. G1 finally stood. She walked to the center of the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the silence. Honored Council, she said, her voice steady. The research is accurate. Humans do think this way. It is part of who we are. She looked around at the assembled species. You call it irrational. We call it determination. You see it as a death wish. We see it as refusing to be victims. No human wants to die. But every human wants to ensure that anyone who attacks us pays a terrible price, even if that price includes your own extinction, asked a council member. Jiwan met their gaze without flinching. Especially then. If someone tries to destroy us, we will make absolutely certain they don't get to enjoy their victory. We'll leave them nothing but ruins and regrets. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species wanted to quarantine humanity immediately. Others suggested studying them further. A few aggressive species seemed almost impressed. Thalvor watched Jiwan return to her seat. She didn't look worried or ashamed. She looked proud. That's when Thalvor truly understood the depth of the problem. Humans weren't embarrassed by their revenge psychology. They celebrated it. They saw it as a strength. The council called for an emergency vote. They needed to decide what to do about humanity. Were humans too dangerous to integrate into galactic society? Should they be isolated, contained, monitored? As the debate raged, one question hung unspoken in the air. Everyone thought it, but no one wanted to say it out loud. What happens if humanity decides we are their enemy? That night, Thalvor couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the data, about the simulations, about Jiwan's calm acceptance of her species' nature. Humans would destroy themselves just to hurt their enemy. They would burn their own world if it meant their attacker gained nothing from the ashes. And somewhere in the darkness of space, humanity's ships patrolled the borders of their territory. Ships filled with people who saw mutual destruction not as a nightmare, but as an acceptable outcome. Thalvor had studied xenopsychology for 2 centuries. He had seen fearless warriors and brilliant strategists, but he had never seen anything like this. Humans weren't the strongest species. They weren't the smartest. They weren't the most advanced, but they might be the most dangerous. Not because of what they could do, but because of what they were willing to do. Because humans had looked into the face of total annihilation and said simply, "Fine, but you're coming with us." The council demanded more proof. They couldn't believe that an entire species could be so fundamentally irrational. There had to be a mistake in the data, some error in translation or cultural understanding, so they called for an expert witness, a human historian who could explain their species' behavior. Hyunwoo arrived 3 days later. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 40 years studying human warfare and conflict. When Thalvor met him at the docking bay, Hyunwoo looked around at the alien architecture and smiled sadly. "I know why you called me," Hyunwoo said. "You want me to tell you we're not as crazy as your research suggests?" Thalvor's hope flickered. "Are you?" Hyunwoo shook his head. "No, we're exactly that crazy. Maybe worse." The presentation began the next morning. The council chamber was packed. Every species wanted to hear this. Hyunwoo stood in the center, looking small and human among the gathered aliens. "I will show you my species' history," Hyunwoo said. "I will not hide anything. I will not make excuses. You asked for truth, so I will give you truth." The first hologram appeared, an ancient city surrounded by enemies. "This is Carthage," Hyunwoo said. "When the Romans came to destroy it, the people fought for 3 years. House by house, street by street. When the Romans finally broke through the walls, they found families barricaded in their homes. The people chose to burn their own houses with themselves inside rather than be captured." He showed them more examples. Cities that poisoned their own water supplies, commanders who killed their own horses so the enemy couldn't use them, farmers who burned their own crops and salted their fields. "This is called scorched earth," Hyunwoo explained. "If we cannot have it, neither can you." "It's a very human concept," a council member interrupted. "But these are ancient examples. Primitive cultures. Surely modern humans have evolved." Hyunwoo laughed bitterly. "Modern humans? Let me show you modern humans." The holograms changed. Now they showed 20th century warfare. Cities reduced to rubble. Entire regions destroyed. In our World War II, cities were bombed until nothing remained. Not for military advantage. For revenge. For punishment. Dresden, Tokyo, Hamburg. We burned them because we wanted the enemy to suffer. He showed them footage of kamikaze pilots, young men flying planes directly into enemy ships. Certain death, but they did it willingly. These pilots wrote poems before they died. Hyunwoo said softly. Beautiful poems about cherry blossoms and honor. They knew they would never see another sunrise. They flew anyway. The council watched in horrified silence as the footage continued. Soldiers in Vietnam creating elaborate tunnel systems, living underground for years, enduring unimaginable hardship just to continue fighting. Resistance fighters in dozens of conflicts accepting torture and death rather than surrender. "You see a pattern?" Hyunwoo asked. "It doesn't matter what century. It doesn't matter what culture. Humans everywhere in every time period show the same behavior. When faced with defeat, we choose to make victory as costly as possible for the enemy." He brought up the nuclear weapons documentation, diagrams of missiles, maps showing blast radiuses, casualty projections in the billions. "This is the pinnacle of human revenge thinking," Hyunwoo said. "We created weapons that could end all life on our planet. We built thousands of them. We pointed them at each other and said, if you attack us, everyone dies." Thalvor added his own research to the display. Brain scans showing neural activity during revenge scenarios. "The human brain rewards this thinking," Thalvor said. "When humans contemplate revenge, even suicidal revenge, their dopamine levels increase. They feel pleasure, satisfaction. Their own biology encourages self-destructive behavior if it harms an enemy." Hyunwoo nodded grimly. "It's built into us. We can't help it. When someone hurts us, we don't just want to defend ourselves. We want them to regret ever making us their enemy. We want them to pay such a terrible price that the memory of it echoes through history. He showed them cultural artifacts, movies where the hero sacrifices themselves to kill the villain, books celebrating last stands against impossible odds, songs about dying with honor, video games where players choose explosive endings that kill everyone. Our entertainment glorifies this, Hyunwoo said. We tell our children bedtime stories about people who chose death over surrender. We make them heroes. We build monuments to them. A council member from a peaceful trading species spoke up, its voice quavering. But why? What possible advantage does this give you? Hyunwoo turned to face the speaker. Deterrence. If everyone knows that attacking humans means mutual destruction, fewer people attack us. We might be weaker than you. We might have less advanced technology, but we make ourselves too expensive to fight. He showed them historical data. Look at the numbers. Throughout human history, the most vengeful cultures were often the ones that survived, the ones willing to burn everything rather than submit. Enemies learned to avoid them, to negotiate instead of conquer, to seek peace instead of war. Thalvor pulled up genetic studies. This trait has a biological basis. Humans who showed revenge behavior had higher survival rates in their ancient past. The trait was naturally selected. Over thousands of generations, revenge became hardwired into human psychology. But surely not all humans think this way. Another council member asked desperately. Hyunwoo shook his head. Not all. Some humans are pacifists. Some believe in surrender and survival. But they are the minority. Most humans, when pushed to the wall, will choose to fight even when fighting means dying. He showed them survey results. Thousands of humans asked what they would do in various scenarios. The results were consistent across cultures, religions, and nations. If an alien species attacked Earth with overwhelming force, what would you want your government to do? 70% said fight to the end, even if it meant extinction. If capture was inevitable, would you rather surrender or take your enemies with you? 65% said take them down. If Earth was about to fall, should we destroy our own planet to deny it to the enemy? 58% said yes. The council members made sounds of distress. Clicks, whistles, groans, electronic wails. Every species expressed horror in their own way. Hyunwoo continued relentlessly. We have sayings in every human language about this. I'll see you in hell. If I'm going down, you're coming with me. Victory or death. We don't just say these things. We mean them. He showed them modern military doctrines, battle plans that included mutual destruction as a viable option, weapon systems designed for maximum damage even if the operator died. Strategic reserves hidden throughout the solar system with orders to continue attacking even if Earth fell. We have dead man switches, Hyunwoo said, automated systems that launch attacks if they stop receiving signals from command. If you destroy Earth, our weapons fire automatically. You kill us, we kill you. That's the deal. Thalvor watched Jiwon during the presentation. She sat motionless, her face calm. She didn't look ashamed or apologetic. If anything, she looked satisfied that the galaxy was finally understanding what humanity truly was. A council member who resembled a large insect spoke up. This is madness. How can you function as a society if everyone is willing to die for revenge? Hyunwoo smiled sadly. It's not madness to us. It's insurance. It's the guarantee that no one can abuse us without consequences. We might lose, but the winner will inherit ashes. He brought up one final set of images. Recent conflicts where humans had served as peacekeepers in galactic disputes. You've seen us be helpful, Hyunwoo said. You've seen us be friendly. And we can be. We want to be part of the galactic community. We want peace and cooperation. He paused, letting the silence build. But never forget what we're capable of. Never forget that somewhere deep in every human brain is a voice that says, if they hurt us badly enough, we burn it all down. That voice has saved us countless times throughout our history. And it's not going away. The presentation ended. The council chamber remained silent for a long moment. Finally, one of the oldest council members spoke. It was a being of pure energy, ancient beyond measure. In 10,000 years of galactic civilization, it said slowly, we have never encountered a species like yours. Species that fight to survive, yes. Species that seek advantage, certainly. But species that willingly choose mutual extinction? The energy being pulsed with something that might have been fear. You are either the bravest species we've ever met or the most insane. Perhaps both. Hyunwoo bowed slightly. Perhaps we're just the most honest. Every species here would like to think they're purely rational. But put them in the right circumstances, threaten the right things, and I wonder how many would choose differently than us. The difference, Thalvor said quietly, is that you don't need extreme circumstances. You don't need to be pushed to the absolute limit. Humans reach for the mutual destruction option early and often. It's not your last resort. It's one of your first considerations. Yunwu nodded. True. And that's what makes us good allies and terrible enemies. We remember every slight, we nurse every grudge, and we never ever forgive people who hurt us badly. Jiwan finally stood and walked to join Hyunwoo. Together they faced the council. You wanted to understand us, Jiwan said. Now you do. We are the species that will walk through fire if we can drag our enemies with us. We are the species that turns. Not everyone believed the warnings. Commander Vexillar of the Vryn fleet thought the human research was exaggerated nonsense. His species had conquered 47 worlds through simple, effective strategy. Show overwhelming force, offer reasonable surrender terms, and the enemy always submitted. Always. They're bluffing, Vexillar told his officers. No species actually chooses mutual death. It goes against every evolutionary instinct. His second in command was less certain, but the research clearly shows. Research by frightened scientists, Vexillar interrupted. Humans are weak. One small colony barely defended. We take it, they surrender, and this ridiculous debate ends. The human mining colony on asteroid 427 was home to 300 people. They extracted rare metals for Earth's shipbuilding program. Defense consisted of a few patrol ships and some outdated weapons platforms. Easy prey. Vexillar's fleet appeared in the system without warning. 15 warships, each twice the size of the largest human vessel. The display of force was overwhelming and deliberate. Human colony, Vexillar broadcast on all frequencies. You are surrounded. Surrender peacefully and you will be treated well. Resist and you will be destroyed. You have 1 hour to decide. On Earth, Mireille received the emergency alert. She was humanity's top military strategist, known for her cold logic and ruthless decision-making. She pulled up the tactical display and analyzed the situation in seconds. The asteroid was lost. The Vryn fleet could destroy it easily. Evacuation was impossible. There wasn't time. Most strategists would begin negotiating surrender terms. Mireille did something else. She opened a channel to the asteroid. This is Earth Command. Load the evacuation protocols. The colony commander, a woman named Dayun, appeared on screen. She understood immediately. Evacuation protocols was code for something else entirely. Something that the Vryn weren't expecting. Confirmed, Dayun said calmly. Beginning evacuation procedures now. Thalvor was monitoring the situation from the council's observation station. When he saw what the humans were doing, his blood ran cold. No, he whispered. They wouldn't. Not for one small colony. But they were. The asteroid's fusion reactors provided power for the mining operations. They were designed with multiple safety systems, fail-safes, and automatic shutdowns. What the Vryn didn't know was that those safety systems could be manually overridden. Dayun walked through the colony's control center, entering override codes. Around her, the 300 colonists went about their work with eerie calm. Some were recording final messages to family on Earth. Others were simply preparing to die. Reactor safeties disengaged, Dayun reported. Beginning overload sequence. Mireille's face on the screen showed no emotion. Confirmed. Timer set for 30 minutes. If the Vryn enter your perimeter, you are authorized to detonate early. Understood. The transmission ended. Dayun turned to her crew. Everyone knows what's happening. Anyone who wants to record a message, do it now. We have 28 minutes. No one panicked. No one begged to negotiate with the Vryn. They had all volunteered for frontier duty. They knew the risks, and they were all human. In orbit above the asteroid, Vexillar detected the energy spike from the reactors. His sensors officer reported the readings with growing alarm. Sir, the asteroid's fusion reactors are overloading. Deliberately. Vexillar stared at the data. That's impossible. They'll destroy their own colony. Yes, sir. And us if we're too close. The explosion will have a blast radius of approximately 1 light minute. Our fleet is well within that range. Meanwhile, the human warship Indomitable had changed course. It was accelerating toward the Vryn flagship at maximum speed. The Indomitable's captain was a man named Yunho. He had served in the human navy for 20 years. He had a wife and 2 children on Earth. He was 2 months away from retirement. Now he was going to die. All hands, Yunho announced over the ship's intercom. "We are executing Protocol Omega. This is a one-way trip. If anyone objects, speak now." Silence. Then one by one his crew responded. Navigation ready. Weapons armed. Engineering reporting reactor overload standing by. Marines ready, sir. Yunho felt a strange sense of pride. His crew knew they were about to die. Not one of them hesitated. The Indomitable broadcast on all frequencies. "Vrin Fleet, this is Captain Yunho of the Earth warship Indomitable. You have attacked a human colony. You have 10 minutes to withdraw beyond the blast radius. If you remain, we all die together." Vexlar couldn't believe what he was hearing. They're bluffing. They must be. His second-in-command wasn't so sure. "Sir, their reactor readings show a genuine overload in progress. The asteroid as well. This isn't a fake." "No one is that insane," Vexlar insisted. Thalvor was desperately trying to reach Vexlar on secure channels. "Commander, listen to me. The humans are not bluffing. Their psychological profiles show they will do exactly what they're threatening. Withdraw now." "I will not be intimidated by primitives," Vexlar responded. "Then you will die," Thalvor said flatly. "And so will they." That's the point. On the asteroid, Daeun watched the countdown. 23 minutes. The Vrin fleet hadn't moved. She thought about her parents on Earth, about her brother who was studying medicine, about the beach house she'd been saving for, about all the things she'd never get to do. Then she thought about the Vrin commander who thought humans would just surrender, who thought they were weak, who was about to learn the hardest lesson of his life if he lived long enough to learn it. The Indomitable continued accelerating. Yunho had aimed his ship directly at the Vrin flagship. Collision course. No deviation. The ship's reactor was primed to explode on impact, taking the flagship and everything around it. "Sir," his weapons officer said quietly, "I just want you to know it's been an honor." "The honor is mine," Yunho replied. "All of ours. They'll remember this back home. They'll know we didn't surrender. 15 minutes to detonation." The Council was watching everything. Some species were horrified. Others were fascinated. All of them were learning something important about humans. Jiwan sat in the observation room, her face carved from stone. She knew Daeun personally. They had attended academy together. Now she was watching her friend prepare to die, and she approved. Because that's what humans did. They made attacking them so costly that enemies thought twice. They turned defeat into mutual destruction. They never ever submitted quietly. 10 minutes, Vexlar's officers were openly protesting now. "Sir, we need to withdraw. The humans are going to detonate." "They won't," Vexlar said, but his voice was uncertain now. "Sir, please." 8 minutes. The Indomitable was 3 minutes from collision. Yunho could see the Vrin flagship growing larger on his screens. His finger hovered over the manual detonation button. Just in case, behind him his crew stood at their stations. Ready, calm, human. 6 minutes. Thalvor made one last desperate call. "Commander Vexlar, I am begging you. In my 200 years of studying alien psychology, I have never been more certain of anything. The humans will detonate. They are not bluffing. They are not trying to scare you. They are genuinely prepared to die to take you with them." 5 minutes. On the asteroid, someone started singing, an old Earth song about standing firm against enemies. Others joined in. 300 voices singing as their reactor counted down to apocalypse. 4 minutes. Vexlar's second-in-command physically grabbed his commander. "Sir, if you don't order withdrawal, I will mutiny." "They're going to blow. Look at them." The Vrin flagship's sensors showed the Indomitable's crew. They weren't panicking. They weren't trying to escape. They were going through pre-destruction checklists with calm professionalism. Some were smiling. 3 minutes. Something inside Vexlar finally broke. The certainty that had carried him through 47 conquests shattered. Because he suddenly realized that every species he'd ever conquered had been sane. They'd valued survival. They'd made rational choices. Humans were different. "All ships," he commanded, his voice cracking. "Emergency jump. Now. Maximum range." The Vrin fleet scattered, initiating faster-than-light jumps in all directions. Anything to get away from the asteroid, away from the Indomitable, away from the humans and their insane willingness to die. 2 minutes. "Indomitable. This is Earth Command," Mireille's voice came through. "Vrin fleet is withdrawing. You are authorized to abort." Yunho felt a strange mixture of relief and disappointment. Relief to be alive. Disappointment that he wouldn't get to take the enemy with him. He killed the reactor overload with seconds to spare. On the asteroid, Dayan received the same order. The reactors were brought back under control. The colony was safe, but the Vryn fleet was gone, jumped to distant coordinates in blind panic. The council chamber was absolutely silent. They had just watched humans prepare for mutual extinction with calm efficiency. No hysteria, no panic, no last-minute surrender, just cold determination to take their enemies down with them. Thalvor looked at Jiwan. Your people were really going to do it. Of course, Jiwan said simply. We told you we would, but why? For one small colony? For 300 people? Jiwan stood and faced the council. Because if we surrender once, everyone will think we'll surrender again. Because if we let one enemy take what's ours without paying the ultimate price, others will try. Because we are human, and we do not submit. She pulled up footage from the Indomitable's bridge, the crew singing old songs. The incident with Vexlar changed everything. What had been theoretical research was now proven fact. Humans really would choose mutual destruction over surrender. The galaxy had to decide what to do about it. 3 groups emerged in the council, each with different ideas about humanity's future. The isolationists wanted to quarantine Earth, build a barrier around human space, and let them stay there until they evolved into something less dangerous. Their leader was a wise old creature named Quilmara, who had guided the council for centuries. We cannot allow this instability into galactic civilization, Quilmara argued. Humans are a virus of irrationality. They will infect others with their revenge psychology. We must contain them for everyone's safety. The militarists wanted something more extreme. Led by Vexlar himself, they argued for immediate military action against Earth before humans developed more advanced technology. They are weak now, Vexlar said, his voice still shaking from his near-death experience. But give them 100 years, 1,000 years. They will have weapons we cannot imagine, and they will use them. We must act while we still can. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Vexlar, who had started this crisis by testing humans, now wanted them destroyed because the test had succeeded. The third group was smaller but growing. The integrationists, led by Thalvor, argued that understanding humans was the key. Quarantine will make them enemies, Thalvor said. Attack them and they will fight to mutual extinction. But work with them, accept them, and they become allies. Humans are loyal to friends and terrible to enemies. We should make sure we're friends. On Earth, the debate raged just as fiercely. President Hyunsu addressed the planet in a broadcast that went to every screen and every device. The galaxy is afraid of us, Hyunsu said bluntly. They think we're crazy because we're willing to die to take our enemies with us. Maybe they're right. Maybe we are crazy, but that craziness has saved us countless times throughout history. He showed images from human history, outnumbered armies that refused to retreat, cities that fought to the last person, resistance movements that never surrendered. We survived because we made ourselves too expensive to conquer, Hyunsu continued. Predators learned not to attack us. Empires learned not to invade us. Not because we were strong, but because we were willing to burn everything rather than submit. But not everyone on Earth agreed. A peace activist named Sura had been giving speeches that drew massive crowds. She stood in front of millions and challenged humanity's core identity. We celebrate revenge, Sura said passionately. We glorify mutual destruction. But look at the cost. How many millions died in our wars because no one would back down? How many times have we destroyed ourselves pursuing revenge? She showed statistics. Wars that had continued for decades because both sides refused to surrender. Conflicts where millions died for revenge that accomplished nothing. The galaxy is right to fear us, Sura declared. We should fear ourselves. This trait that we call strength is actually weakness. It's kept us trapped in endless cycles of violence and revenge. Her movement grew rapidly. Humans who believed their species needed to evolve past revenge psychology, who thought mutual destruction was not strength but sickness, but others disagreed violently. Counter-protests erupted. Sura wants us to be weak, they shouted. She wants us to surrender when enemies attack. To be victims, the planet divided. Those who believed revenge psychology was humanity's greatest strength, versus those who saw it as their deepest flaw. Then classified documents leaked. Military files that showed just how far humanity's revenge psychology went, dead hand protocols, automated weapons scattered throughout the solar system, on asteroids, on moons, hidden in deep space. Programmed to activate if they stopped receiving signals from Earth. Nuclear weapons, kinetic impactors, antimatter bombs, all set to launch automatically if Earth fell. The galaxy reacted with fresh horror. Even if they destroyed Earth completely, humanity's revenge weapons would activate automatically. Mutual destruction was literally programmed into their defense system. Ji-won found herself in an impossible position. She had to defend human psychology while privately agreeing with some of the criticisms. She met Thalvor in a private room, away from cameras and recording devices. "I understand why you're afraid," she told him quietly. "I understand why the galaxy wants to quarantine us or destroy us. Because you're right. We are dangerous." Thalvor listened carefully. "But consider this," Ji-won continued. "Humans are weak. We have the third smallest population of any spacefaring species. Our technology is centuries behind yours. Our ships are outdated. Our weapons are primitive. We should be easy prey for any aggressive species." She pulled up statistics. "But no one attacks us. No one tries to conquer us. Why? Because everyone knows the cost. Everyone knows that even if they win, it will hurt so badly that the victory is worthless." "That's extortion," Thalvor said. "No," Ji-won corrected. "It's deterrence. It's survival. Without this trait, humanity would have been conquered or enslaved within a year of joining the galactic community. Our revenge psychology is the only thing that keeps us safe." She showed him military projections, scenarios where humans didn't have their reputation for mutual destruction. In every simulation, Earth was conquered within 5 years. "You think we're crazy," Ji-won said. "But from our perspective, we're the only ones being realistic. In a galaxy full of stronger species, our willingness to burn it all down is our greatest defense." The council prepared to vote. Quarantine, attack, or integration. The future of humanity hung in the balance. Quilmara spoke for the isolationists. Humanity must be contained until they evolve past this destructive phase. It may take 10,000 years, but galactic safety requires it. Vexler spoke for the militarists. Humans must be neutralized now while they are still weak. Waiting only makes them more dangerous. We must act. Thalvor spoke for the integrationists. Humans are not evil. They are not monsters. They are survivors who evolved a dangerous but effective strategy. They can be allies if we treat them with respect. The debate went on for hours, species after species expressing their views. Some agreed with Quilmara, others with Vexler, a few with Thalvor. Yunsu spoke next, addressing the council via hologram from Earth. "You must choose. Quarantine us and we will view you as jailers. Attack us and we will fight to mutual extinction. But accept us, work with us, and we will be loyal allies." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Humans remember our friends. We also remember our enemies. What you decide today will determine which category you fall into, and I promise you, you want to be our friends." The threat was clear without being explicit. "Make us your enemy and you'll regret it forever." Sura also addressed the council. "Some humans believe we need to change, that our revenge psychology is a flaw we should overcome. But I represent a minority. Most humans embrace this trait. They see it as their identity." She looked directly at the council members. "I wish I could tell you that humanity will evolve past this, that in a few generations we'll be just like you, valuing survival over revenge. But I can't promise that. It might never happen." The council members whispered and clicked and hummed among themselves. This was the most important decision they had made in centuries. Finally, the vote was called. Each species would cast one vote. Quarantine, attack, or integration. The results came in slowly. Quilmara's faction was strong. Many species voted for quarantine. Vexlar's faction was smaller but passionate. Several species voted for immediate military action. But Thalvor's faction was growing. More and more species saw the logic. Humans were dangerous, yes, but that danger could be directed, channeled, used. The final vote was close. So close that it came down to a single species. The Eternal Ones, beings of pure energy who rarely participated in council politics. Their representatives spoke in a voice like singing crystals. "We are old. We have seen species rise and fall for millions of years. We have seen warriors and peacemakers, conquerors and victims." The chamber held its breath. Humans are unique, dangerous, unpredictable, but also necessary. Because sometimes the galaxy needs someone willing to do what others cannot. Someone willing to stand when all others flee. Someone willing to say no further and mean it absolutely. The Eternal One paused. We vote for integration. With conditions. The conditions were severe. Humans would be monitored constantly, their weapons development restricted, their expansion limited, but they would not be quarantined. They would not be attacked. They would be part of the galactic community, on probation, forever watched, but free. The announcement sent shockwaves through both the Council and Earth. Humanity had survived its trial. Barely. Ji-Wan felt relief wash over her. Then fear. Because now humanity had to prove they could control their revenge psychology enough to function in galactic society. On Earth, reactions were mixed. Some celebrated. Others felt insulted by the restrictions and monitoring. Sura's peace movement grew, arguing this was a chance to change. But most humans felt vindicated. The galaxy feared them. Good. Let them be afraid. That fear would keep humanity safe. Thalvor met with Ji-Wan one last time before she returned to Earth. You have your chance, he said. Don't waste it. Prove that humans can be trusted. Ji-Wan nodded. We'll try. But understand something. We won't change our core nature. The Council never got to implement their monitoring program. 3 days after the vote, something ancient and terrible awakened in the dark spaces between stars. The Devourers. No one knew who built them or why. They were machines vast and unstoppable, designed with one purpose: consume. They moved from system to system, breaking down planets into raw materials, feeding an endless hunger that had no goal, no reason, no mercy. They had been dormant for thousands of years. Now they were awake. The first attack came without warning. A council colony world called Harvin Prime, home to 9 billion beings. The Devourers arrived, ignored all communication attempts, and began their work. The Council fleet responded according to their nature. They evacuated as many people as possible. They fought to buy time for the evacuation ships. They saved 7 billion lives, but Harvin Prime was gone, reduced to floating debris and raw materials. The Council held an emergency session. Military analysts presented their findings. The Devourers were technologically superior to any single species. Their ships were massive, their weapons devastating, their defenses impenetrable. We can evacuate threatened worlds, the chief military advisor said. We estimate we can save 70 to 80% of populations if we begin immediate evacuation protocols. And the planets? Someone asked. Lost. All of them. The Devourers won't stop. Ancient records suggest they consumed 40 systems before going dormant. They may consume 100 this time. The Council members absorbed this horrific calculation. Billions would be saved through evacuation, but hundreds of worlds would be destroyed. The loss of resources, infrastructure, and history would set galactic civilization back centuries. Is there no way to stop them? Quilmara asked. The military advisor hesitated. There is one possibility. The Devourers operate through a central command node. It controls the entire fleet. If we could destroy the node, all the Devourer ships would deactivate simultaneously. Hope flickered in the chamber. But the node is protected at the center of their fleet. To reach it would require penetrating through hundreds of Devourer ships. Any attack vessel would be destroyed long before reaching the target. The odds of success are approximately 30%. The odds of survival are 0. The chamber fell silent. The military advisor continued. It's a suicide mission. Whoever attempts it will definitely die, and they probably won't even succeed. It's not a viable option. For the Council, that ended the discussion. No species would order their people on a certain death mission with only 30% chance of success. It violated every principle they valued: survival, preservation, rational cost-benefit analysis. They prepared evacuation plans instead. Earth received the briefing. President Hyunsu convened his military command. Mireille pulled up the tactical data and studied it for hours. It's possible, she finally said. Difficult, but possible. Hyunsu looked at her. The Council says it's suicide. It is suicide, Mireille agreed. 100% fatal. But 30% chance of stopping the Devourers. That's not bad odds. Not bad odds, Hyunsu repeated. Mireille, whoever we send will definitely die. Yes, Mireille said calmly. But they'll take the enemy with them. That's the deal, isn't it? That's what humans do. She pulled up the Devourer fleet composition. We need a small, fast ship. Heavily armed, piloted by our best. They penetrate to the center, identify the command node, deliver maximum firepower, and detonate their reactor as backup. And they all die, Hyunsu said. They were going to die anyway, Mirai said. We all are. Heat death of the universe, if nothing else. This way they die for something. They die saving billions of lives and stopping an enemy that can't be stopped any other way. Hyunsu felt a chill. This was the revenge psychology that terrified the galaxy. Mirai was suggesting suicide as a primary strategy, not a last resort. And she was right. It would work. Humans would volunteer for it. I'll make the announcement, Hyunsu said quietly. He appeared on every screen on Earth. The galaxy faces a threat called the Devourers. They cannot be negotiated with, cannot be reasoned with. The Council plans to evacuate and let them consume hundreds of worlds. He paused. There is another way, a mission to destroy the Devourer command node. It is a suicide mission, 100% fatal, but it might stop them. It might save those worlds. Another pause. I need volunteers. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of applications within an hour. Pilots, soldiers, engineers, scientists, all willing to die on a 30% chance. The selection committee chose 12. The best pilots, the best tactical minds, the best of humanity. They would fly modified warships deep into the Devourer fleet and end this. The squadron leader was a woman named Bora. She had flown combat missions for 15 years. She had a daughter on Earth who was starting university. She had plans to retire and teach flying to the next generation. Now she was going to die. The Council watched in stunned horror as the human volunteers prepared. They weren't crying or despairing. They were excited, honored. They saw this as the highest calling. Thalvor found himself in the observation room with Jiwon again. They're happy, he said in disbelief. Your people are happy to be chosen for suicide. Of course, Jiwon said. They get to save billions of lives and kill the enemy. What could be better? Living? Thalvor suggested. Jiwon shook her head. Living and knowing you did nothing while worlds burned? That's worse than death. This way they die as heroes. They die making a difference. They die taking the enemy down. The squadron launched. 12 ships against the Devourer fleet. They accelerated to maximum speed. Weapons armed, reactors overloaded and ready to explode. The Devourers detected them and responded. Devourer ships converged on the squadron from all directions. Energy beams lanced through space. The first human ship was destroyed within minutes. Bora led the remaining 11 deeper. Her tactical board showed thousands of threats. Impossible odds. Certain death. She smiled. All ships, stay tight. Follow my lead. We're going to thread the needle. Her ship twisted and turned, dodging between Devourer vessels. Another human ship exploded. Then another. The formation was down to 9 ships. They were halfway to the center. The Devourer response intensified. Weapons fire from every direction. One ship took a glancing hit and spun out of control, detonating its reactor as a final act of defiance. 8 ships left. Bora's daughter sent a final message. It reached her just as she entered the densest part of the fleet. I'm proud of you, Mom. Give them hell. Bora laughed and cried at the same time. Will do, sweetheart. Will do. 5 ships left. The Council watched the battle on their screens. They saw human ships dying one by one. They saw the pilots never hesitating, never retreating, pushing forward into certain death. This is insane, someone whispered. This is human, Thalvor replied. 3 ships left. Bora identified the command node, a massive vessel at the very center of the fleet, surrounded by dozens of Devourer ships. Her tactical computer calculated a 0% chance of survival. She ignored it. All ships target the big one. Everything we have. If we don't make it, detonate manually. Make sure the blast reaches. 2 ships left. Just Bora and 1 other pilot, a young man named Taewon. They accelerated to ramming speed. Weapons blazing. Reactor cores critical. The Devourer command node loomed ahead, massive and terrible. Taewon's ship was hit. Crippled but still flying. Bora, I'm not going to make it. I'm detonating now. Make my death count. It will. I promise. Taewon's ship exploded with the force of a small star. The blast tore through a dozen Devourer ships and damaged the command node's shields. Bora was alone. The last ship. The last hope. Devourer weapons hammered her shields. Alarm screamed. Hull breaches on 3 decks. Reactor containment failing. She had maybe 30 seconds before her ship exploded, whether she wanted it to or not. She aimed for the gap in the command nodes, shields that Taewon's sacrifice had created. "If I'm going down," she whispered, "I'm taking you with me." Her ship impacted the command node at a significant fraction of light speed. The reactor detonated. Nuclear fire and antimatter annihilation merged in an explosion that registered on sensors across the system. The Devourer command node disintegrated. The signal it had been broadcasting to the fleet stopped instantly. All across the system, hundreds of Devourer ships went dark. Dead in space, powered down, harmless. The mission had succeeded. At the cost of 12 human lives, the council chamber erupted in chaos. Relief, amazement, horror all mixed together. "They did it," someone said in shock. "They actually did it." Hyunsu addressed the council from Earth. His face was tired, sad, proud. 12 humans died today. They died to save your worlds. They died to stop an enemy you couldn't stop. They died because no one else was willing to. He let that sink in. You were afraid of human revenge psychology. You wanted to quarantine us. Some wanted to destroy us. Now you've seen what we can do with that psychology. When others evacuate, we attack. When others accept defeat, we choose mutual destruction. When others say it's impossible, we do it anyway. The council was silent. Bora and her squadron are dead. But billions of lives are saved. Dozens of worlds are protected. The Devourers are stopped. That's what humans bring to the galaxy. The willingness to do what no one else can. The willingness to die if dying means winning. Quilmara spoke, her ancient voice trembling. "We were wrong about you." "Not completely wrong.